Okay, good. Sure. That's okay. State case is still set.
All right.
Good. Okay. Good. Gotcha. All right. Good evening. Are you Mr. Good?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, Mr. Good, I'm Judge Arvant. We are on the case State of Michigan versus Terrell Good. It is case number 21S929. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Attorney Heather Washington, P81608 on behalf of Mr. Good.
All right, good afternoon. Mr. Good, could you state your name and your complete mailing address for the record, please?
Yes, Terrell Antonio Good, 1785 Poppleton Drive, West Bloomfield, Michigan, 48324.
All right, Mr. Good, do you have a phone number that you could provide?
Yes, ma'am. 313-488-7524.
All right, and how about an email address, Mr. Good?
T as in Tom, EEGOODE, my last name, 91@gmail.com.
All right. And Detective, on behalf of the Southfield Police Department this afternoon?
Detective Wojciechowski, Your Honor, Southfield Police.
All right, Mr. Dutcher, your appearance for the record, please.
Stacy Dutcher, pretrial services.
All right. Good evening, folks. This is the date and time set for arraignment on this felony complaint and warrant. Mr. Good, you're before the court today, charged with one felony count of attempted false pretenses, $50,000 or more, but less than $100,000. That is a felony that could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 5 years in prison. You're charged with another felony count, identity theft. That could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 5 years in prison and or $25,000 in fines and costs. And count 3 is a felony count of possession of a fraudulent financial transaction device. As a felony, that could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 4 years in prison and or up to $5,000 in fines and costs. Mr. Good, do you understand those charges against you and the maximum possible penalties?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, Ms. Washington, how is Mr. Good proceeding for purposes of this afternoon?
We would like to enter a plea of not guilty.
Right. Mr. Good, a not guilty plea will be entered on your behalf relative to this matter. Your next court date in this case is scheduled for December 15th. That will be at 1:45. Your case is assigned to Judge Johnson, so you will appear on December 15th at 1:45 for your probable cause conference with Judge Johnson. Now, when you're charged with a felony, as you are in this case, Mr. Good, you have a number of basic rights. You have the absolute right to remain silent. Anything you say orally or in writing could be used against you in court. You do have a right to be represented by an attorney in this case, at all phases of this case. If you wanted an attorney and could not afford one, one may be appointed for you. You have an absolute right to have a preliminary examination in this court, where the burden is on the state to prove both probable cause to believe that a crime was committed and probable cause to believe that you are the individual who committed this crime. If the state meets that burden, the matter would be bound over up to circuit court, where ultimately, Mr. Good, you would have the absolute right to go to trial in this case and have your case resolved at trial before a judge or a jury. Sir, do you understand
Yes,
those
ma'am.
basic rights?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll hear from pretrial services relative to bond, and then counsel, I'll come to you after we've heard from pretrial and the detective. Mr. Dutcher, anything you can tell me as to bond for Mr. Good?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Stacy Dutcher, pretrial services, and you can hear me okay?
I can, thanks.
Let's see. I contacted the mother of his child, Victoria Williams. She's the alleged victim in a matter that's in warrant status out of the 48th District Court, verifying that he's a 30-year-old single male, has one 6-year-old child. Victoria also has a 10-year-old child. The defendant reported was his child, but biologically he has one child that's 6 years old. He reported to me that he's residing at the address he gave you, 1785 Poppleton, West Bloomfield, Michigan, 48324. However, it doesn't appear that he's actually lived at that address. When I talked to his reference, says he hasn't lived there in 8 or 9 months, that since the summertime he's been residing with a cousin in Detroit, could not provide the exact address. She couldn't verify that he was employed or not, but he indicated to me that he's been working at Amazon in Livonia for the past year as a packager, and that he last worked on yesterday's date and is making $1,300 bi-weekly. Denied the use of illegal drugs and marijuana. It was reported that he does use recreational marijuana, has a prior marijuana conviction on his record. Let's see, denied any mental or physical health issues. I'm the one that gave you a complete copy of his criminal history. I show he has a warrant out of Oregon. I show he has a warrant for the matter I already spoke about out of the 48th District Court, domestic violence, driving license suspended. Bench warrants out of Taylor for traffic-related misdemeanors and civil infractions. 52-1 in Novi for driving while license suspended. Allen Park for civil infractions, and also an Allen Park misdemeanor, traffic-related misdemeanor matter. Second. Came off my report. Let's see. I'm the one that's provided you with a complete copy of his criminal history. The instant offense is a non-assaultive felony matter. The alleged victim is listed as a Joseph Dugan, who I believe is a stranger to the defendant. The alleged victim lives in California. Scene of the alleged incident was Southfield Chrysler, located at 28100 Telegraph Road here in the city of Southfield. Defendant was put onto my risk assessment. For that reason, pretrial services respectfully recommend the defendant not be released on his own recognizance. If he's able to post your bond, I'll ask to be supervised by pretrial supervision. Asking not allow him to use any alcohol or controlled substances, no contact with the alleged victim, Joseph Dugan, and no contact with scene of the alleged incident, Southfield Chrysler, located on Telegraph Road here in the city of Southfield. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, Mr. Dutcher. Detective, anything from Southfield PD relative to bond?
Yeah, pretty sure I might have brought this up, but there is also a child support warrant for him for $11,000 in the arrears of child support for his arrest. The warrants appear to be misdemeanor cases. He did change his identity in this case, or allegedly, and he's not appearing for his misdemeanor warrants. I would doubt that he would appear for more serious cases, which obviously these are 3 felonies. I would just ask the court to take that in consideration and would object to any personal bond. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thanks, Detective. Ms. Washington, anything you can add relative to bond for your client this afternoon?
Yes. So my client says that he is very committed to seeing out the disposition of this case. In fact, he says that he is supposed to be meeting with the detective because he does want to cooperate. He does want to see this through. I'd like to ask for a personal bond. Given his history, if you are inclined to give him a bond, I'd be asking for the lowest bond possible. He is employed currently at Amazon. He has children that he cares for. So I'd be asking for a personal bond if you can.
All right, thanks, Ms. Washington. I need to back up a second because I forgot one very important thing. Mr. Good, I forgot to ask you if you intend to retain your own attorney in this case or if you'd like court-appointed counsel.
I'm going to attempt to get my own lawyer if I can afford it.
Okay, well, do you think you'll be able to do that between now and your court date with Judge Johnson next week on December 15th?
If I'm able to be released on bond and go home and figure some things out, yes, I think I should be able to do that.
Okay. Well, then at this point, I will not recommend appointment of court-appointed counsel for you. I'll indicate, we'll make a note in our file that you intend to hopefully retain your own attorney. If you're unable to do so, you can address that issue with Judge Johnson on December 15th. All right, as it relates to bond in this case, as noted by pretrial services, this is a felony charge. Defendant has a number of outstanding bench warrants, as you know, documented history of failure to appear in court. Mr. Good, what is your address? Do you really live at the Poppleton address or no?
No, I do.
Who do
When
you
me
live
and my
there with?
fiance, when me and my ex-girlfriend got in that domestic dispute, I did have to go live with my cousin for a little bit because me and her weren't supposed to be around each other. So that's what was probably
Okay.
reported to.
Well, given that that
But
case is still
that's since been-
pending, I would assume that that's still a condition of your bond.
No, they dropped that no contact.
Okay,
Um,
well, you
when
know,
we
you have a
went-
bench
we went to-
warrant in that case with a $3,000 cash surety bond. You know that? Have you seen the 48th yet today?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you've got a number of outstanding bench warrants. You've got this bench warrant out of Hillsborough, Oregon, aggravated theft, aggravated ID theft, and ID theft. It says the date of the warrant is July 29th, and there's full extradition ordered on that case. You have the bench warrant out of 48th District Court for the domestic violence case. There's a bench warrant with $3,000 cash surety bond in that case. You have a couple bench warrants out of Taylor District Court for failure to appear on misdemeanor traffic matters. There are bonds in those cases. You got a bond out of 52-1 in Novi for a traffic matter. That's a $500 cash surety bond in that case. You got two warrants out of Allen Park. $191 cash surety, $362 cash surety, and $4,500 cash surety 10%. So there is a documented history of failure to appear in court. I'm concerned that this case involved attempting to use a false identity allegedly. I'm concerned that this is a felony. I'm concerned that there are other similar related type charges on his driving record. I'm concerned that he has a documented history of failure to appear in court. So a personal bond would certainly not be warranted in this case. First of all, Mr. Good, should you post bond, these would be the conditions of your bond. You would be subject to pretrial services supervision. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or controlled substances not prescribed for you. That includes marijuana. So no alcohol, no drugs, no marijuana while this case is pending. Excuse me. You are not to have any contact with the alleged victim in this case, Joseph Duggan, D-U-G-G-A-N, and you are not to return to Southfield Chrysler located at 28100 Telegraph Road in the city of Southfield while this case is pending. Sir, do you understand those specific bond conditions?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, based on, again, the nature of these charges, the matters already on Mr. Good's criminal history and the number of outstanding warrants, again, a personal bond would not be warranted. Bond will be set in the amount of $10,000 cash surety with those conditions that I indicated. All right, good luck to you, Mr. Good.
Is there any way I can speak to the detective?
Not right now. We're in the middle of
Okay.
arraignments, so,
No, I understand. I just meant at some point.
well, I guess that's up to the detective.
Your Honor, I heard the request.
You're
I
all
believe
set. You
that-
can go knock on the door, Mr. Good. Let them know you're all set.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Come on in.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Mims. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm glad I get to see you today, Mr. Mims. I missed you yesterday. You were supposed to be in my
Oh, I'm sick.
courtroom. Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sick.
we're on State of Michigan, City of Southfield versus Christian Mims, 21S 928, and State of Michigan versus Christian Mims, 21S 713. Counsel, your appearance for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Attorney Heather Washington, 81608 on behalf of Mr. Mims.
All right, Mr. Dutcher, on behalf of pretrial services, your appearance for the record, please.
Stacy Dutcher, pretrial services.
All right, and Detective, on behalf of the Southfield Police Department, your appearance for the record, please.
Detective Wojciechowski, Southfield Police, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Mims. Oh, yes, yeah, you would like those, sorry. I forgot, in my courtroom, I keep those. That's okay. All right, Mr. Mims, could you state your name and your complete mailing address for the record, please?
Christian Mims, 20426 Piccadilly Road, 48221, Detroit, Michigan.
All right, Mr. Mims, a good phone number for you?
313-929-5994.
All right, and an email address.
Freedom T313@gmail.com.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mims, we've got a couple things going on. In the new City of Southfield case, you're before the court today for arraignment on a misdemeanor complaint and warrant. You are charged with one misdemeanor count of preventing a lawful 911 call as a misdemeanor that could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 90 days in jail and or up to $500 in fines and costs. In the state of Michigan case, you're before the court today for arraignment on a violation of your bond conditions in your pending state case. The alleged violations are that you violated your bond conditions, specifically the condition that you not have any contact with the victim, Andrea Conley, that you use a third party to transfer your child for visitation, that you not return to the victim's apartment at 26543 Berg Road, and that you not possess or consume any alcohol or controlled substances not prescribed for you. Sir, do you understand those allegations against you as it relates to the bond violation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Washington, how is Mr. Mims proceeding this afternoon?
He'd like to enter a plea of not guilty.
All right, Mr. Mims, a not guilty plea will be entered on your behalf relative to both of these cases. As it relates to the City of Southfield case, your next court date in that case is scheduled for December 21st at 3 p.m. Your new case is assigned to me, Judge Arbant, so you'll appear in my courtroom on December 21st at 3 p.m. For a pretrial on your new city case. On your state of Michigan case, your next hearing date is scheduled for a bond violation hearing, December 20th at 1:45. Again, that matter is scheduled before me, Judge Arbant, December 20th at 1:45. And I should note that that's the date we set yesterday when you were supposed to be here for the 2 prior bond violation hearings, but were unable to apparently appear in court yesterday. So you're keeping that same court date. We would have already mailed you notice of that one, December 20th at 1:45. Now, as it relates to these cases, Mr. Mims, because you're charged with a misdemeanor in the new case, you have a number of basic rights, including the absolute right to be represented by an attorney. If you wanted an attorney and could not afford one, the court may appoint one for you. You also have an absolute right to go to trial in this case and have your case resolved at trial before a judge or a jury. Sir, do you understand those basic rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, now as it relates to your pending state case, you've already got court-appointed counsel. We'll make sure she's aware of this new matter before our bond violation hearing on December 20th. As it relates to the new Southfield charges preventing a 911 call, are you requesting an attorney or do you intend to hire your own attorney on this one?
I'm requesting an attorney.
You're requesting an attorney? All right, Mr. Mims, are you
Yeah.
presently employed?
I'm self-employed.
What do you do, Mr. Mims? Remind me.
I order stuff on the internet and then I sell it.
Okay.
Basically like
So a
drop shipping.
resale type business. All right, how much money do you make every 2 weeks doing that, Mr. Mims?
It varies. I say every 2 weeks. I can make up to $1,000 or up to $800 every 2 weeks.
The address on Piccadilly Road, do you pay rent or mortgage payment to live there?
Just lights and gas and stuff like that.
Who do you live there with?
My mother.
Okay, but you don't pay rent or anything, you just pay some utilities?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you're single, not married, that's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you have one child. Do you have any other children in addition to your child with Miss Conley?
No, ma'am.
Do you pay child support?
No, I take care of my daughter every day.
All right, it does appear that you would be eligible for court-appointed counsel, so I will recommend that an attorney be appointed to represent you. Perhaps it may even be Miss Elsendor representing you on this new case. Mr. Dutcher, as it relates to bond in these matters?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Stacy Dutcher, Pretrial Services. I typically don't write reports on the bond violation matters because typically
Right.
the files go before
Sure.
you guys, and you guys make the final decision on what you're going to do with that bond. So the only matter I actually wrote him on was the new matter. And just to let you know, he was booked under a felony. I found out that he was only charged under city for a misdemeanor on this matter. Was not able to interview him this morning. It was indicated to me that he was intoxicated, too intoxicated to do my interview this morning. My records do show he's a 30-year-old single man, has the 1 3-year-old daughter in common with the alleged victim, Andrea Conley. The last known address was the address he provided to you, 20426 Piccadilly Road, Detroit, Michigan, 48221. I have provided you with a complete copy of his criminal history. Looks like he does have a few pending matters out there on top of the matters that he has going on here. I know on my report in the body of it, I said his next court date was 1/6/2021 in front of
Right.
you for sentencing, but we both know that that's a typo. It was 2022. He was out on
Sure.
bond when this alleged incident took place. He falls under MCO code 765.6A, which indicating I must recommend a monetary amount on this matter. You already know he's in violation of his injunction order, which indicated he could have no contact with Andrea Conley, could not return to her address. He was arrested at her address. I seen there was like intimidation allegations and things like that, but they just did charge him with preventing 911 call. It doesn't appear that he complies with court orders. It looks like he does pose a danger to the alleged victim as he continues to have contact with her when he's court ordered not to. Again, I did write this as a felony, but I just thought the conditions
Sure.
that I wrote, would still apply to this matter. So I'm respectfully recommending that he not be released on his own recognizance. If he's able to post your bond, I'll ask that he has supervision by pretrial supervision, no drug or alcohol use, not to possess firearms or dangerous weapons, no contact with the alleged victim, Andrea Conley, no contact with her residence, 26543 Berg Road, apartment 154, Southfield, Michigan, 48033. I'm also asking that he have a GPS tether prior to his release to ensure that he has no contact with the alleged victim in this matter. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Detective, anything from the city's perspective relative to bond on either of these matters?
Yeah, I'm just concerned for the safety for Ms. Conley, and I agree with the pretrial and the rest. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Right, Ms. Washington, anything you can add relative to bond?
Yes, Mr. Mims is committed to seeing out the disposition of this case as well. He is employed, as you stated, he's self-employed, he buys and resells goods, he cares for his daughter daily. I would be asking for a personal bond if you are so inclined to do so. If not, I'd be asking for the lowest bond that you can give him.
I do need to make a bit of a record in this case, and I will say this. It is just by happenstance that I happen to be covering for my magistrate today, doing arraignments today, and coming into contact with Mr. Mims. Mr. Mims was supposed to be in my courtroom yesterday for an in-person bond violation hearing relative to alleged bond violations on November 13th and November 14th, wherein it is alleged that he had contact with Ms. Conley and he went to an apartment in violation of the conditions of his bond. Mr. Mims pled guilty to domestic violence on November 3rd. We're awaiting sentencing, which is scheduled for January 6th. In the interim, there were these alleged bond violations. I have reminded Mr. Mims of the bond conditions in this case, specifically no contact with Andrea Conley, do not go to where she lives. I even amended the bond conditions when I saw him on November 23rd to require that the parties use a third party, that he not go to pick up this child in person. And I advised Mr. Mims of those amended bond conditions on November 23rd. And in fact, I believe, and let me just double check, Mr. Mims signed an amended bond condition form on that date, indicating that he understood those changes to his bond conditions. So Mr. Mims has been, oh, and just by way of record, I have reminded Mr. Mims of his bond conditions on September 29th, November 3rd, November 23rd. So he's been reminded time and time again of his bond conditions, and yet he apparently is unable to comply with the conditions of bond that have been put in place. I have extreme concern for the safety of this alleged victim. The safety assessment in this case is concerning, to say the least. I have concerns that the allegations of bond violations in the new state case, again, it's alleged that he had contact with Andrea Conley. Not only that, that it was assaultive contact. He did not use a third party for visitation. He returned to her address on Berg Road where he knows he is not supposed to be. And he was apparently under the influence of alcohol, which would violate his bond conditions that he not possess or consume any alcohol or controlled substances not prescribed for him. I am also concerned that I had this matter set for a bond violation hearing yesterday. Mr. Mims did not appear. Instead, Mr. Mims provided his court-appointed counsel with information suggesting that he had been admitted to the Detroit Medical Center for treatment for COVID, and thus he was unable to appear yesterday. That's why I find it extremely concerning that he did not appear in person for his bond violation hearing, and yet it is alleged that at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, he was where he was not supposed to be, being in contact with who he was not supposed to be in contact with, doing things he was not supposed to do, allegedly, and not, in fact, in the Detroit Medical Center being treated for COVID, which he represented to his attorney, which was then in turn represented to the court yesterday. I have 0.0 belief that Mr. Mims will abide by any of the terms and conditions that I will put in place, because he has been reminded time and time again, and he still doesn't want to follow those directions. If I could deny bond in this case, I would consider doing that. If I could revoke bond in his state case without having a hearing, I would consider doing that. But I cannot do that today, so we'll go through the normal process here. As it relates to the state case, or I'm sorry, the new city case, Mr. Mims, your bond in the new city case will be set in the amount of $2,500 cash surety with the following conditions. And I'm going to repeat these again, and I'm going to hope you listen this time. You will be supervised by pretrial services. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or controlled substances, including marijuana. You are not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You are not to have any contact with the alleged victim, Andrea Conley. You are not to return to the address at 26543 Berg Road, number 154 in the city of Southfield. You're required to use some type of third party for child exchange so that you will not have contact with her, and you must have a GPS tether prior to your release. As it relates to the state case, this is not the first, this is not the second, this is the third alleged bond violation that I'm going to need to address at our bond violation hearing on December 20th. Given the continued violation, apparent violation of this bond's court conditions, including yesterday being arrested on the scene, and again, suffice to say, I'm concerned for the victim's safety in this case. I'm concerned for the defendant's complete failure to regard any of the bond conditions in this matter. Bond on the state case will be set in the amount of $10,000 cash surety with those same conditions and with a GPS tether prior to release. Good luck, Mr. Mims. I will see you on December 20th for your bond violation hearing. All right?
Okay.
You're all set, Mr. Mims. Go knock on the door. Let them know you're done.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Mr. Dutcher. No, I have one more. But I don't, Mr. Dutcher, I don't know if I don't think he's on this one because it's traffic. Yeah, just DWLS. Yep, we're all set. Oh, you want these?
Okay.
Good afternoon. We're on City of Southfield versus Smith, 13SO 07104 A and B. Ms. Washington, your appearance for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Attorney Heather Washington, C81608 on behalf of Ms. Smith.
All right, and Detective, on behalf of Southfield PD, your appearance for the record, please.
Detective Wojciechowski, Southfield Police, Your Honor.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Smith. Could you state your name and your complete mailing address for the record, please?
Good afternoon, Tanisha Renee Smith, and it's 14141 Strathmore, Detroit, Michigan, 48227.
All right, and Ms. Smith, do you have a phone number that you could give us?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What-
313 743 1858.
All right, and how about Ms. Smith, do you have an email address that you use?
Yes, ma'am. It's
What's
Tanisha. It's Tanisha R. Smith at iCloud.
All right, Ms. Smith, you're before the court today for arraignment on 2 misdemeanor matters. These are kind of old cases from 2013. A ticket is a misdemeanor ticket for driving while license suspended, revoked, denied. As a misdemeanor, that could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 93 days in jail and or up to $500 in fines and costs. The B ticket is a misdemeanor ticket for driving while license expired. As a misdemeanor, that could carry with it a maximum possible penalty of up to 90 days in jail and or up to $500 in fines and costs. Ms. Smith, do you understand those charges against you and the maximum possible penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Washington, how does Ms. Smith intend to proceed this afternoon?
I'd like to enter a plea of not guilty.
Sure. Ms. Smith, a not guilty plea will be entered on your behalf this afternoon. Your next court date in this case is scheduled for January 3rd at 2 p.m. Your case is assigned to Judge Johnson. So you'll call into Judge Johnson's courtroom on January 3rd at 2 p.m. for a pretrial in this matter. Now, when you're charged with a misdemeanor, as you are in this case, you have a number of basic rights, including the absolute right to be represented by an attorney. If you wanted an attorney and could not afford one, the court may appoint one for you. You also have an absolute right to go to trial in this case and have your case resolved at trial by a judge or a jury. Do you understand those basic rights, Ms. Smith?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Detective, any information as to bond for Ms. Smith?
I don't have anything on this case yet.
All right, Ms. Washington, anything you can add relative to bond for your client this afternoon?
Yes, Ms. Smith doesn't have a criminal history. She is working full-time at the Townsend Hotel, also has a child at home. I'd be asking for a personal bond for her.
All right, just taking a look at this. All right, Ms. Smith, how did you come into custody?
I was pulled over for a headlight.
Okay, where was that?
I think that's Beverly Hills. But I think it's Beverly Hills, Detroit.
Okay, do you know, are there new charges pending or did they just send you over here on your warrant?
She gave me a ticket for the headlight. That's it.
Okay, all right. Court will set a personal bond in each one of these cases, $250 personal on each one of these cases. So Ms. Smith, you do not need to post bond to be released today, but you must appear for your court date on January 3rd. Failing to appear for court is what got you the warrant and got you arrested, and now has held you in custody all day. So that's not a good thing. You must appear in court with Judge Johnson on January 3rd at 2 p.m. for your hearing. If you fail to appear, a bench warrant could be issued for your arrest. As a condition of your bond, Ms. Smith, you are not to drive because you do not have a valid license. Your license is presently suspended. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
So no driving without a valid license while this case is pending, and you'll see Judge Johnson on January 3rd. Ms. Smith, any questions for me or Ms. Washington this afternoon?
No.
Ms. Washington, anything else on behalf of your client today?
Actually, can you repeat that case number for me one more time?
Sure, of course. It's 13 SO 07104 A and B.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. All right. Good luck to you, Ms. Smith. You're all set. Thanks, Ms. Washington. Thanks, Detective.